Hello, I'm going to read The King's Stilts by Dr. Suess. Naturally, the king never wore stilts during business hours. When King Bertram worked, he really worked, and his stilts stood forgotten in the tall stilt closet in the castle's front hallway. There was so much work to be done in the kingdom of Bin that King Bertram had to get up every morning at 5. Long before the townsfolk and the farmers were awake, the king was splashing away in his bath. It was right here, in fact, that his day's work began. With his left hand he could bathe with his royal bath brush, but his right hand he always had to keep dry for signing royal papers of his state. Eric, his page boy, brought in his papers on a big silver tray. He stood at attention to the foot of the tub while old Lord Droon took the papers one by one and held them over the wire for His Majesty to sign. "Sign here, sign there," old Droon would say, "and hurry, sire, hurry. There are hundreds more to come." It was just the same at breakfast. The king cut and buttered his toast with only his left hand. With his right he kept signing royal orders and commands. By 7 every morning, the king had always finished more business than most kings do in a month. He had to get all this done before 7, for that was the hour when his big work commenced, the most difficult and important work in the whole kingdom of Bin. This was the work of caring for the mighty dike trees that protected the people of Bin from the sea. The sea pushed against the kingdom on 3 sides. The kingdom was a low one, the sea was a high one. And only the dike trees kept the sea from pouring in. They grew so close together in a row along the shore that they held back the water with their heavy knotted roots. But to keep these trees strong and sturdy was not an easy task. They were more spicy than pine trees, and the roots were very tasty to a certain sort of bird. Lizards. This was a kind of giant blackbird with a sharp and pointed beak. Lizards, they were called by the people of Bin. These lizards were always flying about over the dike trees, waiting for a chance to swoop down and peck. If nobody stopped them, the roots would soon give way. Then the sea would pour in with a terrible roar, and every last soul in the kingdom would drown. But King Bertram did not permit this to happen. He had gathered together in his kingdom the largest and the smartest cats in the world, and had trained them to chase the lizards away. These cats were called patrol cats, and they wore badges that said PC. "Everything in Bin," said King Bertram, "depends on our patrol cats. They're more important than our army, our navy, and our fire department too, for they keep the lizards away from the dike trees, and the dike trees keep the ocean out of our land. 1,000 cats in all. They divided up the work. 500 guarded the kingdom by day, the other 500 kept watch through the night." At 7 every morning came the changing of the cat guard. At the sound of a trumpet, the king left his breakfast and mounted his horse for daily review. Fresh, brisk, and well-fed, the 500 day cats marched past him toward the dike trees to take up their watch. At the same time, the night cats, muddy, tired, and hungry, headed home to the kennels for the 12 hours' rest. There was rest for the cats, there was none for the king. He took every minute of his morning to see that they were given the very best of care. The huts they slept in must be kept clean and tidy. Each cat must be brushed and whiskers trimmed just so. The cat kitchen was bigger and grander than the king's, and the cooks who did the cooking were the chief cooks in the land. "Your Majesty," the chief in charge officials always say, "tell us that you think the food we feed our cats is perfect." And the king would look over the huge wet baskets of fish, choosing only the finest and freshest to serve his patrol cats. So went the morning. Then all afternoon, both in winter and summer, the king made his rounds by the edge of the sea. Every root of every dike tree he inspected every day. But finally, at 5 o'clock, the great task was finished. And the king smiled. "A hard day," he'd say, "full of miserly worries. A long day," he'd say. "Now it's time for some fun." This was the moment King Bertram lived for. When he worked, he really worked. But when he played, he really played. "Quick, Eric!" he'd shout. "Quick, Eric, the stilts!" Down the slope from the dike trees, away from all troubles, the king and Eric would race like 2 boys, straight to the tallest stilt closet in the castle's front hallway. Out came the stilts, up leapt the king. High in the air, his royal robe streaming, he'd raced through the marble halls, out across the terrace, up and up down the garden stairs. Black spy coach dogs barked and romped beside him, nipping at the heels of his flashing red stilts. The townsfolk looked on from the walls and just loved it. A grown-up king on stilts, they'd say, does look rather strange. But it's hard work being king, if he does his work well. If he wants to have a bit of fun, sure, let him have it. But there was one man in Bin who did not like fun. He didn't like games. He didn't like laughing. This man was a scholar. This man was Lord Droon. Laughing spoils the shape of the face, he declared. The lines of the corner's mouth should go down. Every morning when the stilt hour drew near, Lord Droon would slink away to his room in the northwest tower and sell. Such carryings on, he muttered in disgust as he spied on the king from his window. Look at his crown bouncing up and down the side of his head. Look at his beard flapping in the wind. Look at him laughing right out in broad daylight in front of the townsfolk. I must do something about this. One day he did. One Wednesday, just before supper, when he thought the king was out, Lord Droon tiptoed down to the front hall. The guards of the post were dozing. Without the smallest sound on the hard stone floor, Droon crept to the stilt closet, pulled back the ancient door, and reached in. It only took the second. He had the king's stilts. He unbuttoned the top of his long robe and shoved them down inside. When he sneaked past the guards again and slipped through the door. Down the steep, slanting stairway, Lord Droon marched with the stilts, down to the furnace to burn them. This is the end of the king's foolish stilt walking, he mumbled to himself. Then suddenly, from around the bend of the stairs below, came the sound of happy whistling. The king! Lord Droon stopped still, almost frozen with fright. He tugged and pulled at his long flowing gown, struggling to cover the stilts, but he couldn't. The ends were too long and stuck out. Droon, Droon! Gasped Lord Droon. You'll be caught! He turned and fled back up the stairway. Nearer and nearer came the king, but Droon couldn't climb any faster. The stilts clattered, they banged and spanked against his knees. He looked up and saw a window. Stepping up to it quickly, he poked his head out. He looked down into an alley. A small boy was passing. It was Eric the page boy. Psst! You! You! Lord Droon hissed in a hoarse, nervous whisper. Eric looked up astonished. Yes, sir? He bowed politely. Take the stilts! Commanded Lord Droon. Take them away! Bury them! Deep where no one can ever find them! Bury them by the sea, by the dyke trees! Lord Droon flung the stilts from the window. The king's stilts? Bury them? Eric didn't know what to do. It will spoil all his majesty's fun, he stammered. You're impudent, Lord Droon said harshly. I said bury those stilts. What's more, young man, don't you ever come back or I'll have you locked up. I'll have no impudent boy around this castle. But I'm the king's own page boy, gasped Eric, hardly able to understand this dreadful command. You were the king's own page boy, snapped Lord Droon. He pulled his head and slammed down the window. Never before had Eric been so puzzled. Never in his life had he felt so sad. But there was nothing to do but obey the command. He picked up the stilts and walked straight toward the road that led to the sea. It was the hour that the townsfolk were all having supper. No one saw him dig the deep hole. Nobody saw him bury the stilts. At 5 the next afternoon, the halls of the castles echoed the king's mournful shouts. Droon! Droon! They're gone! They're gone! The king stood groping in the empty stilt closet, hopelessly searching for what wasn't there. Lord Droon chuckled to himself. He had expected this to happen and was ready with his lie. It was the townsfolk who did it, he said, peering into the stilt closet and pretending to be greatly shocked. I have seen them every day plotting behind the castle walls. A king, they say, should behave like a king and sit with pomp and dignity upon his royal throne. A king, they say, should never walk on stilts. It is too bad, your majesty, but you must try to do without. King Bertram answered with a heartbroken sigh. Well, I'll try to do without them.